Welcome to DevAI, where we talk with builders and thinkers shaping the future of software and AI. Today, we are diving into a critical pain point in modern software development. Developers are now writing code 10x faster with AI assistants like Cursor and Claude Code. The bottleneck, code review. As a result, AI-powered code review tools are exploding in popularity, but this shift raises much bigger questions. How do you architect systems that truly understand code bases, not just diffs? Can standalone tools survive when IDEs start building review features? And fundamentally, we still be doing pull requests in 5 years, or is the whole workflow about to change? Joining me today is Harjot Gill, CEO of CodeRabbit, a company tackling this head on with AI powered code review. CodeRabbit has already reviewed over 13 million pull requests and 2 million repositories. We'll be exploring the technical architecture, the competitive landscape, and the future of code review in a world where AI writes the code. Harjot, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks, Balaji. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, I know we met last month at OpenAI Dev Day, and you were like 1 billion tokens used. I think you yourself was there, but essentially, I'm guessing the CodeRabbit team has used over 1 billion code review tokens from. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's right. It's been one of the use cases that's been absolutely, we're seeing a massive pull in the market. And you pointed it out during your earlier that with Cursor and tools like Claude Code and so on, you're writing a lot more code now. The volume of code has gone up. And the second order effect of that is like now the bottlenecks are now shifting to code reviews. That's where we're seeing like massive pull in the market. And also like from the product market fit point of view, like large language models have been also very, very effective for this use case.
Awesome. And I'm curious. We'll maybe get to it now. Like I know the cloud is usually the cloud models are usually the more popular for code assistance or code AI. And I know you're using OpenAI. Is it your exclusive use, or you use multiple ones for your code
We
review?
use like a pretty big user of Anthropic models. They don't, I mean, covered CodeRabbit a few times in their case studies, probably like also one of the top users over there. And so we kind of like right now both like Anthropic, OpenAI, we kind of mix our models. And unlike tools which are in space where the developers get to choose a model in a drop down, in case of CodeRabbit, we choose the models, but we kind of mix these models together.
Cool. Yeah. Before we get a little bit more deeper, I want to start with your personal journey. You've been a founder before. Now you're building CodeRabbit, which is doing fantabulous. What was the moment or insight that you made you realize this problem was worth solving? Was there a specific pain point you saw, and how did you evolve CodeRabbit?
Now, that's a great question. So, yeah, this is my third startup, right? So I kind of know Balaji from my first startup, actually, like 10 years back. So it was kind of a similar pattern going after a second order problem. So in my first startup, the big inflection point, not as big as AI though, but it was still an inflection point where microservices, containers, Kubernetes was taking off. And you had all these Mesosphere and Rancher, a bunch of the orchestration tools coming out. So we saw that over there that the world is going to move to more like fast deployment and fast moving applications. Web scale engineering is going to take off. And we kind of saw that observability is going to be a bottleneck. So that was my first startup. It was called Netsil, listen spelled backwards. Our hypothesis was right. So we got a decent exit and with Nutanix back in 2018. And Datadog became a massively valuable company because of that inflection point. So it's not just the cloud providers that made revenue, but also observability players also saw tremendous growth. So this is kind of a similar setting. The idea for CodeRabbit started at my second startup called Flux Ninja. So that was in the reliability management space. And this was around the time when GitHub Copilot had just come out. And that was even before ChatGPT was there. I think Copilot was one of the first very strong use cases for LLMs for code completion. And we saw it coming. So we had a remote team, around 15 people, and code reviews were already a bottleneck. And as developers started adopting AI, we clearly saw the increase of the code getting generated and also AI slob as a consequence of it. Because a lot of the developers sometimes take the code written by AI, submit it for review, and it has so many subtle issues in those PRs, right? We saw that happening. So we saw that, okay, I mean, there's one have smaller PRs, like do stack pull requests. The other one is like just bring AI to fight AI. I mean, it's like fighting fire with fire in a way. And so that's where we like built the very early prototype of CodeRabbit, like the where it is like it's a much, much further along. But and then like the saw like very interesting results by applying even simple GPT 3.5 to the problem. But then the models improved, the product, the context improved, and so on.
No, that's great. I think this is absolutely the only way to fight this fire, right? Writing code is so easier. I was looking at my own code token usage, just like crazy. And so I can totally imagine how other people are using it. That's great. Now, CodeRabbit specifically, you talk about you review code like a teammate. Like teammates obviously know the system. They've been working on the product for a while. And how do you build that level of context with an AI? There's a context window size is a problem. And how do you pull in all the context for a code review, CodeRabbit to do it?
Yeah, so there are multiple things we have to do there. One is what is the context we can bring in front of the AI, which includes things like code graphs. So we create where we are able to bring the code base for that branch that we are reviewing, and then to run code graph analysis, understand dependencies, definition, references of the code being reviewed, so that we are not just looking at the code changes which are in front of us, but also pulling in relevant context from the other files which are in the call path. So that's one part of it, and there's like a bunch of other stuff we do, like around code similarities as code index is used. We are bringing in context from linters and static analysis tool, bunch of that stuff, right? But that's usually not enough. Like that's what we found. Like the context windows are small and you can't just pack everything in there. Right? And especially like if you pack a lot of things there, even like the models don't work that effectively. Like the recall and everything suffers. We also like were one of the very early companies to invest very heavily in the agentic code exploration. Like even before Cloud Code was a thing, like we were doing all these like shell in a sandbox like grep searches and AST grep searches and complex queries like jock queries and so on to understand code base. Right? So that's what we did. Like we have like an agentic code reviewer system where we provide the upfront context, but when we decide that okay, this is not enough, we have to go and read more code. So we are able to on demand let the agent code the code just like a human would and find which are like span across multiple files.
I mean, does your tool understand the architecture violations and do you have supplemental files you provide to the to your assistant to kind of understand a little more context?
And that's right. I mean, we do create like a fingerprint of the entire repository. We kind of know what kind of packages they're using. We understand the coding guidelines. So these days, because of adoption, a lot of people are writing agent MD5 or cursor rules. We understand just all that. So we kind of understand what they like, don't like. We also have a system which learns over time. So if you don't like CodeRabbit's feedback or it's not architectural decisions or other tribal knowledge, you could always chat with CodeRabbit and it remembers. Organization around like own system like path-based instructions. So you could actually go and tailor customize CodeRabbit for your style of working. More important, less important. Does all that.
How do you prevent like developers from introducing sort of unapproved patterns, especially now that AI makes it easier than ever to generate a risky code? Can the tool infer org standards from existing reports? I see that when I write some integrations, it makes up different things every time I ask it, and then it breaks a lot of things. So how do you ensure that all the developers, they make a code change, they follow a standard? They don't make up new things.
That's exactly where we are seeing the pull in the market. With the coding tools, we have seen that usually the developers are picking and choosing the tool that they like. So there is a popular tool, but also is Cloud Code. Cloud Code is also getting so much traction now. We have Codex and we have AMP Code and Devin. There's so many of these like, and all of these tools work in a different way, even though they're all using Anthropic's model. Sonnet is very popular, for instance. GPT-5 Codex is getting traction. But end of the day, the agent harness are like so different, right? So they all like sometimes generate code. First of all, like sometimes like write new code. Like I mean, why? I mean, they
Yeah,
don't like.
depending on how you're prompting it, it just immediately like cursor from I mean, like even if I make a mistake and it just takes it and runs with it and makes the code change, and then I have to like undo all of that.
In like creating new classes, new data structures, right? Versus reusing, understanding the architecture. I think those are like just issues with the agent loop that these systems are running. But this is exactly where CodeRabbit complements these tools. Like we have actually done a really good job in fingerprinting existing patterns and then understanding whether all this excessive code is even needed. A lot of AI slop is getting pushed out as well. And sometimes security bugs are getting picked up, being introduced by AI coding tools, right? Some PII leakage, like all those things are interestingly getting and that's where the context engineering part comes in. Like even though we're using models, but one of the big differences in the models we use and the code generation, we use very deep reasoning models. So in code generation, you are in a very interactive setting, like you need real-time responses. If you look at Cursor and Windsurf, they're all optimizing for speed. Composer model is the reason people are liking it is because it's fast. It's not as smart, but it's fast. Fast, cheaper, faster models are always going to miss stuff. Whereas code review happens as a background agent. So we've always been a background agent, zero activation. You open a pull request, it kicks off CodeRabbit's workflow. And our workflow runs for 5 to 10 minutes. Like it's a long running work. And we are doing like a lot of analysis during that workflow and using the top reasoning models, like a lot of GPT-5 on high setting or Opus and so on. So we use all the top models for that, which are slow. Some of these like analysis calls take like several minutes to complete, like some of these prompts. But the results we are getting are like really amazing on that front. Like we can detect all this AI slop, unnecessary code, and so on.
Yeah, I know. I was in Kubicon this week, and I was talking to one of the users. It's like, yeah, I need to go and remove all the like AI slop by 10x because they introduce a lot of debug messages, comments, and all those things, which makes it a long code basically. Is there a feedback loop? Does the model learn from sort of prior reviews, what decisions you make, accepting or not accepting, kind of a thing?
Yeah, we do some of that, like in terms of form of learnings. We also don't want to like adopt the bad practices because every
Hmm.
organization probably want to like improve the bar of where they are right now in reviews and quality. So we deliberately try to not learn things as well. So that's been a challenge, even though we could. So we are very careful of what kind of learnings we bring in because those will throw the agent off track if we kind of learn the wrong thing. So that's been the tricky part. So being very selective on how we carry forward the knowledge from the previous reviews to the next one. And the other part is like the model labs themselves are like really improving. Like the reasoning models, the number one use case has been for all the AI labs has been coding, right? So on at least for that use case, every generation of model we are seeing and testing every few weeks, and the cadence on this model releases has increased. Like now we are seeing model releases every like couple of months or every month from these model labs, right? So anyways, like we're seeing all that goodness come into the.
And if AI is doing all the code review now, what happens to the junior devs learning, right? One of the things that junior devs were able to do is to kind of do a pull request review and learn from things. Now AI is doing it. How do you educate junior devs now?
Yeah, I think the AI is now one of the reasons why a lot of these larger enterprises, especially they love CodeRabbit, is because they don't actually have like a lot of senior talent to even mentor people on their best practices. After CodeRabbit, we have seen, and a lot of people love that aspect that now their junior developers who are opening the PRs are also learning new things, up leveling, learning best practices, and so on. So in a way, like AI CodeRabbit has also been a mentor or an AI mentor for these developers. So that we are already seeing that like the senior developers have been the bottleneck if you really think about it. In every company, they are the ones who were always responsible for architect. And that's been like a very boring activity for many people. Like especially when you have a large PR, you will like not even get feedback in many companies.
You get like a black hole. And my engineers complain about, hey, I did the pull request, there's nobody reviewing it. Because there's so much thing to review now with the AI code, obviously. That's even worse, right? It's, human code is okay. At least now AI code is like even worse, right? Okay. What does humans do now? Like, let's say your CodeRabbit does the review and gives the feedback. Are humans just signing off, or are they doing additional changes? Like, how do you interact, post first pass from your side?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing a pattern where like people are taking CodeRabbit's feedback back into the coding agents to iterate. So a few more CodeRabbit's review. So each time it's gonna give up some feedback, and then the code stabilizes. Like it's in a good enough state to mergeability. Now that kind of number of iterations would take longer in the pre-gen AI way, like than the humans were in the loop. So yeah, so the humans are still like taking that feedback, taking back to the agents and fixing. And also the senior developers, when they are coming in, they are still doing a review. Like, I mean, most of these companies used to have two human reviewers. Now one is AI, another one is still human. Are fighting a higher order, like rather than go and look at like detailed code level, syntax level stuff or like things which are obviously caught by AI. They're now looking at higher level things like architecture and product decisions and taste. Taste is still like humans. They bring in the right taste on whether this thing is built in the right way or so on. And on the other side, we're seeing the same thing. Like, I mean, the humans, like with the most use cases for AI code gen, have been still like human in the steering wheel. You start with tab completion. So you're typing the code. You may choose to accept a suggestion or not. AI is just being a helpful co-pilot in that way. And with, even with Cloud Code, they are not fully on autopilot yet. Like you have to have a multi-turn conversation with Cloud Code. People are trying to get these agents to run for longer and maybe land at the destination you want, but more often than not, they're going off track for the longer horizon. They're seeing very strong pull in the market. Uh, Humans are still in the loop and they're guiding these agents one prompt at a time.
So can sort of AI review go beyond sort of the static stacks? Do you envision CodeRabbit evolving into a auto testing or agent driven QA?
In a way, yes. I mean, we are getting more and more sophisticated with running the tests and bunch of stuff in the CI/CD. So this is a modern CI/CD platform in a way. You have bringing in the context from your Circle CI and other tools, and then helping people even fix those issues. Time to remediate the CI broken builds and so on. We are also helping a lot on that front. And that's where CodeRabbit is. It's going deeper into security. Security is another area like security scanning. And how do you envision like AI native security scanning? And look for like vulnerabilities in the packages you're introducing, software bill of materials, all those things we are like also like going into.
Okay. And speaking of security, I think you had a security incident earlier this year around exposed credentials. What happened? And I know you responded pretty quickly. And sort of what lessons did you learn from it, from your perspective?
Right. So there was a disclosure program that we are running. So it wasn't like an incident. So this was like
Okay.
we run about. And most companies like don't even disclose like when they fix stuff. So in our case, we found that okay, this was interesting enough, and the researchers who reported said that they want to like presented black hat, and we agreed. So that's how like that became a more of a public knowledge. We were like okay with that. So it was very interesting. I think most security, if you look at modern security, you have to incentivize these researchers to go and hack your systems, give them safe harbor, and that's how you uncover things that you miss in your workflow. So we did like a lot of like overhaul of our architecture, so make sure that okay, we are not because sandboxing is a key concept in our product. So the way this thing were people had exploited it like in the researchers is they found that like we were running some stuff outside sandbox while most of everything was like running in. There was one tool that we missed, which are remote code execution, right, which was very interesting attack vector. That's why we found like, we should talk about it. This was not something people seen in the past, and ever since then like we kind of like isolated everything. Sandboxes are fully remote and so on.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. Like I said, you guys are at least open and able to take care of it more, actively. That's great. So now you are in sort of the blast zone. GitHub Copilot already in the IDE. Cursor is coming for code review. Why should an enterprise just wait for Copilot to add this natively? I think they're doing some of these already. What's your defensible moat, going forward?
Yeah, I think the bigger platforms and they're always going to try to bundle. I mean, and GitHub Copilot has had their product for over a year now, been competing with us. But then the difference is all in the quality and the depth and the breadth of the solution that we have built. Like, this is like exactly like how Amazon has CloudWatch while you still have Datadog, which is doing well, or you have Redshift versus Snowflake. Like there's so many examples. Even within GitHub, you have like their actions and Circle CI doing well. I mean, it's kind of like that's our view of the market. The best product still win standalone. And Cursor also took Copilot head on. Like, I mean, even though you are in GitHub, you're playing in their ecosystem, you're playing inside VS Code ecosystem, but still like having a better product, even though Copilot was the first product on the market, like Cursor came in from behind them. So I think in the market, like in these markets, especially like developers, like they want to pick up the best solution possible. And especially on the guardrails, I would say code review is really
Yeah.
mission critical. You cannot like go cheap there. You need to really, you can like do a lot, anything on the coding layer you want. Like these can be ineffective agents. But as an organization, if you're investing in a quality product that watches your back, and that's going to lead to prevent a lot of problems downstream. Otherwise, that you're going to cash in production and lose a lot.
So do you plan to maybe release your own IDE so you can write the code better yourself rather than review somebody else's code?
Yeah, I think we are going to be in the code generation market. So that's something also very, we sell at the team level. So CodeRabbit's typical persona is like developer teams. We don't sell to individual developers. We have an IDE extension mainly for code reviews, but that's free extension. We don't even charge anything for it. For us, we are more in the collaborative space. So on the IDE side, I think Cursor's like the leading player. Then you have Claude Code and others. So those are like a very different market for us. Like we are just more of a second order effect company, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, no, this is obviously the most important thing in my opinion, right? I think the code review part, particularly for enterprise, who was worried about security or just standard based approach of their code. Awesome. Now, I think before we wrap up, so 5 years from now, will we even have a pull request? What does code review even look like in that world? What is the What's your vision of how this is going to evolve from a development perspective? I think the world has completely changed. 2 years ago, if you had told me this is what's going to happen, nobody would have believed you. Now, what do you think 5 years from now, how it'll look like?
AI is in a way like helping accelerate these workflows. It's not like fundamentally changing how people do work. For instance, how you do software development, you start with some sort of a collaborative environment where you do planning. So Jira, Linear, Notion. So you're collaborating with other people on what to build. Then once you know what to build, then you're taking that to coding agents. And that's a single player activity. That's where you have Cursor, Claude Code, bunch of these players in the IDE, individual developer on their laptop primarily building software. Background agents they're like trying to push, but those are not been very successful because the accuracy has not been there. Then after you've built, then you have to again come back to collaborative environment for code review, because whatever you've built, you need to put your own guardrails, and those are centralized. Your policies, you have to enforce what you really want to see or not see in this pull request. And not it's not just about catching bugs, it's about enforcing documentation standards and so on. You want to see a few things, finishing touches have to be applied. So that layer is always going to be collaborative. So I don't think that's going to drastically change. Knowing what to build is still humans, and then review still has to be collaborative. The agents are really getting good at getting to the destination in a more accurate way, but the code review is like Kubernetes. I mean, once you adopt Kubernetes, yes, your services will not crash, but doesn't mean you stop being Datadog for monitoring. You still need monitoring.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be fascinating. I mean, I can't wait for how the world is changing. Thank you so much for joining and sharing your front row view into how AI is transforming the code review process. As developers generate code faster than ever before, reviewing that code for quality, security, and consistency so becomes this new frontier. Whether CodeRabbit or others within the space, one thing is clear: that code review is no longer just a human ritual. It's becoming a high stakes, AI-driven layer in the software delivery pipeline. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you hit subscribe and share with your team. And check out previous conversation with other AI builders shaping the future of development. Stick around for the final bite. My closing thoughts coming up next. Thank you again, Harjot.
Thanks, Balaji. Thanks for having me here.
Today's conversation wasn't just about reviewing code faster. It was about rethinking the entire lifecycle of software quality in the age of AI. AI code generation is already here, accelerating developer output 10x. But as Arjot said, if every developer becomes a code generator, the real bottleneck moves to validation, safety, and team alignment. What stood out to me is that code review isn't just a gate anymore. It's becoming the last line of defense in a world where velocity is exploding. While tools like CodeRabbit are stepping up to automate reviews, they're also entering uncharted territory. Can an AI review be trusted to replace human judgment? Will AI learn and reinforce your organization's standards or drift from them? And are we about to replace pull requests entirely with more fluid, more agentic? The future of code review might not look anything like what we see today, but there is one takeaway: it's this. In a world where code writes itself, review becomes everything. Thanks for listening to DevAI. Subscribe for more conversations with builders shaping the next chapter of software and AI.